there we go, to that being which has priority, right, which is Dasein. So what are the three priorities or reasons why we're going to ask the meaning of the question of being to Dasein? Do you remember those?
Ontological?
Yep, there's an ontological priority.
Ontical?
And an ontical priority.
And ontico.
And an ontico-ontological, right? Okay, so the ontological priority, let's just remember, Dasein wonders about the meaning of being, right? And in fact, it's only on the basis of that being is there that Dasein can worry about itself or anything else, as we'll see. So what is Dasein's ontical priority? What does this mean?
Worrying about other beings.
Nope, that's ontico-ontological, right? That's the third one. It worries about the being of other things or the being of other
The
entities.
physical thingliness?
Yeah, sort of. It does have to do with being, facticity comes out of this for sure. It's worried about its own way of being, right? It's always aware of and concerned or has care for its own way of being, right? And the word for this is that Dasein exists, right? It has existence as its way of being. Can you explain what existence is? How is existence different than just having being? That is just like a chair, just is.
Because it cares?
Okay. Yeah, existence has to do with care a lot. Let's talk about touching, right? That might help to understand, right? Chairs, do they touch walls? Do they touch tables? Do they touch the floor? No, they can't, right? Why not? Why is it that Dasein touches, but chairs don't?
It's not the same existence.
Yeah, because, so Dasein knows itself in relationship, right? So think of it in terms of space, right? I know myself as close to the wall, far away from the wall, close to this person, far away from that person. I sit here with the wall on my right, I'm most comfortable. You sit there with the wall on your left, you're most comfortable. You know yourself in relationship to space with things in your environment, right? And so that ability to feel yourself in space, to experience yourself in space, that's existence, right? And because of that, we can understand facticity, right? So what is facticity in relationship to space? What space is most important when it comes to facticity? All right, so we're gonna back up a little bit further then. Things can have the sort of being that is just being present at hand, right? Does Dasein have any presence at hand that belongs to it?
The body.
Yeah, right? We think of it as our bodies, right? But do we ever really experience our body as just something barely present at hand? No, right? Most of the time, in fact, when we deal with the things in the world, we deal with them as things that are ready to hand, right? And it's only when things that are ready to hand break down in their readiness to hand that they can become present at hand. But otherwise, we generally just live in the world with things that are ready to hand, right? I'll give you an example of this. So I have a 22-month-old, right? I've mentioned her a few times, and it's fun to watch her figure out the world that she is. And last night, she has one of these silicone bibs, and it has a little, like a little, I don't know what it is, it catches food, a little plate thing or whatever on the bottom of it. It turns up, right? Like a pocket, I guess. And last night she was running around and she still had her bib on after she'd eaten. And she loves to eat, I eat really dark chocolate, like 95% dark chocolate, so it's super, super bitter, but she loves it. She and I are the only ones who really like it, so it's great. So I'll break off a piece and I stuck it into her bib, into the pocket, instead of putting it in her hand. And she was like, and you could see like the light bulb go off, like, I can use this to carry things in, right? So then she kept wanting to stick things in her bib, and it was like a little front pack for her, right? And like, so you could see she was gaining a notion of readiness to hand with respect to that bib, right? Like, what is this thing for? Oh, it's for carrying chocolate, right? Oh, I like this now, right? And in fact, we took it off of her, and about 30 minutes later, she was trying to get it back on, and was pointing up at the cupboard where the chocolate is, right? And she's like, she's associated this as readiness to hand to carry this treat that she likes. Did she gain an understanding of what this bib could be or do, right? It's a knowledge of being. What is this thing? Is this thing a bib for her? Like, does she stare at it first as something that was present at hand and go, what's it made out of? Look at the color, look at the shape. What should you do with this? Did she do that at all? No, she worked out the ready to hand in the living, right? Nothing is ever present at hand for Dasein. It's always ready to hand. And if you don't know what it's for, you don't even see it. It's not even in your world. And it's only when it breaks down that it becomes something that you've got to figure out what it is, right? So the things that we use most, the things that are most essential to the living of our lives, are the things we pay the very least attention or have the very least understanding of, because they're just the things that work. And as long as they're working and our lives are going, no reason to see it, right? In fact, like when you go up to a door, this is one of the examples Heidegger uses, when you go up to a door, you use the handle, but you don't sit and stare at the handle and think, what is this thing? This looks like a door, what should I do with it, right? You just use it. And if it's broken in some way, then what it is becomes an issue for you, right? You try to open it and it's locked. What's going on? And then you'll look at the door handle, right? But otherwise, it's just ready to hand. So now we're getting to facticity. So facticity is that way of being in the world that just knows things to be used as ready to hand that have an impact on what I can be and what Dasein can be, right? That is, the things in your environment impact what you think of as what you are and impact your being there. So what the ready to hand showed us was that Dasein makes assignments, right? This in order to that. And what they're breaking down showed us, and remember there's conspicuousness, obtrusiveness, and obstinacy, right? That when these things break down, what that showed us is we care about that thing being ready to hand more perhaps than we had realized. And so what starts to emerge is what it is to have a world, right? And a world is based on, in the case of what is ready to hand, concern, right? We throw our care into that way that's called concern or dealings, and we just want to use things, and it matters that they're usable, right? And that then creates notions of involvements, right? Why is it that there is no such thing technically as an or one piece of equipment?
Because it will work with other pieces of equipment.
Okay. Can it even make sense as equipment without all the other equipment, the context of equipment, or the totality of equipment, just the way Heidegger says it, right? Has to all be there in order for equipment to be equipment, right? Otherwise, it's never going to be ready to hand, right? And the more and more you wanted to in order to, let's say you just have this really huge craving for brownies, and you're missing some essential piece of equipment in order to make that happen, the more and more you care about it, the more and more that absence of the thing that you need will bother you, right? Bug you. And so that's how the world starts to show up a little bit, right? I think this is the case, that the way that Heidegger talks about it, the world never shows itself in a way that is happy or pleasing to Dasein. Whenever the world becomes conspicuous as a world, as the world that it is, it's uncomfortable. Right? It isn't something you, well, you may learn to become friends with it, but it generally is something, at least for the most part, in an average everyday way, it's a breakdown, right? It's not a happy thing. And what is shown in the world is that things are free to have involvements, right? And the reason that things are free to have involvements is because Dasein can give them significance, right? This is still just kind of reviewing. Now, what is that on the basis of which we get significance? And that is more generally care. Care, it is because we are beings of care that other things can be invested with significance, right? And how do we get care? By making some kind of an assignment to ourselves, right? So we assign some kind of possibility for Dasein to be, and then that frees up the world and all of the equipment in the world to have significance or to matter, right? And I think I tried to emphasize this a lot on Tuesday. Until Dasein has done this, nothing matters. Nothing can have any significance without Dasein having taken up some position about what it is. Right? And you should be able to come up with some examples of this on your own. I'm going to give you one, and then I want you to write one down that you make up of your own. But say I'll use my son as an example. When he was a senior in high school, he just went head over heels about motorcycles. Everything was about motorcycles. He only wanted to talk about motorcycles. When he would be riding in the car next to us, you could see in his mind that he's like riding a motorcycle, even though he's actually sitting in the car, right? Like he was weaving around bumps in the road, even though he's actually sitting in the car going straight over them. Everything was, you couldn't even have a conversation with him that didn't have something to do with motorcycles, right? What kind of an assignment had he made to himself? I'm a motorcycle guy, right? I mean, it's simple. I'm one of those motorcycle guys, right? And everything about motorcycles was cool. Helmets and clothes and boots and gear and all kinds of motorcycles, right? So there were these things in the world before he made that assignment to himself that he didn't care at all about. Motorcycles, right? Until he became like invested, committed, assigned to himself the idea that he's a motorcycle guy. He probably saw motorcycles every day of his life. Didn't even notice them. Just weren't important, right? It's whatever. Things that are out there, all kinds of things out there. They're insignificant. Why all of a sudden, whenever there was another bike on the road, he was like, oh, that's a Yamaha. Oh, there, that one, that's a Ducati, right? Like, he knew the makes, he knew the models, he knew what they sounded like. Oh, that sounds like a Harley, right? And he just, all of a sudden, he saw motorcycles everywhere, all the time. because of an assignment he made to himself, right? So quickly write down an example for yourself. How does Dasign's ability to make an assignment of a possibility for it to be create significance in equipment? And give me a list of the equipment that would suddenly show up. It may seem like an awkward assignment, but it really isn't, right? So what is something a Dasein could want to be? If they commit to being that thing, what shows up in the world that didn't show up before? How is the world lit up in a way? Of course, I should be careful to say the world is not lit up as the world. The world is still hidden, especially hidden if there's all this wonderful new readiness to hand. What the ready to hand does is hide the world, as long as it's the world. This is how the world it remains obscure. All right, anybody want to share? This will help you to know whether you're getting it. Yeah, Danielle?
I'm expecting my first child this summer.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm registering for my baby shower, and it's like
All this stuff,
strollers
yeah.
and high chairs, and gosh, it's overwhelming. But now it's all I'm paying attention to.
3 years ago, you wouldn't have cared at all about it. Right. Yeah, there you go. You've assigned to yourself now caregiver or mom or whatever, right? This is a possibility for you to be. Are there moms out there who just don't care?
Probably.
Probably, right? There are probably a lot of people, sadly, especially for the ones who keep trying to have babies and can't, who are like, oh, I got pregnant. I do not want to be a mom.
Yeah.
This is being thrown on me. And they might even find, if like a relative or something is like, well, you're going to have a baby, let's go pick out a stroller. They're like, I do not want to look at strollers. I don't want to look at anything baby because I just want to pretend I'm not going to have this, right? Because they have rejected this assignment that the world seems to thrust on them. But in your case, right, excited about this assignment, right? This is a great thing. And because you're taking on this possibility to be, all of a sudden the world is full of all of these ready to hands. It's almost even overwhelming how much, and you think, how could I have missed all of this? Like, what was life like when I wasn't worried about what's going to be the safest car seat?